continue at this next chapter of Youth Box. Let's see what surprise is waiting for us at this chapter. A special edition of Youth Box. For the first time, our interview will be carried out in English. We also have a very special guest, Mr. Pascal Fabie, the director of chapters networks and programs at Transparency International. As you know, Youth Box is supported by TI Vietnam program. TI has more than 100 chapters around the world, and Mr. Fabie is the director of Secretariat in Berlin, which coordinates the work of those chapters. Let's meet with Mr. Fabie now. TI is well known for Corruption Perception Index, the CPI. The CPI ranks more than 180 countries around the world based on how clean and how corrupt they are. The score 10 indicates that a country is very clean, and 0 showing that a country is highly corrupt. In the Corruption Perception Index 2011 by TI, Vietnam would score at 2.9, higher than the score in CPI 2010, 2.7. So, do you think that the corruption in Vietnam, the anti-corruption in Vietnam now has been improved?
No, the variation of 0.2 in the score of the CPI is not significant of a change in corruption. It's just a variation of the methodology, so that cannot be said that the corruption has decreased in Vietnam. No, it cannot be said that. Well, the Corruption Perception Index is a compilation of a large number of various sources coming from various different indices, and depending on how the sources, original sources varies, you can have small variation of score from year on to year, and tiny variation of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 are not translating a real change in the perception of corruption.
Okay. Compared to other countries in Asia Pacific, what do you think about the corruption situation in Vietnam?
Well, I think compared to neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, be it Thailand, Philippines, Cambodia, I think the corruption is as problematic in Vietnam as in neighboring countries, and affects the life of the people as badly in Vietnam as it affects it in the Philippines, for instance. So demands strong action from government and the various stakeholders. So it is a worrying situation.
Also, according to Vietnam YAS, a significant proportion of youth said that anti-corruption is not their business. What do you think about this attitude?
Well, though we can understand it to a certain extent, I think if everybody was to adopt an attitude like this will not help the problem. So I think it's probably a minority of the proportion of youth that says it's not their business. So I don't think we should take that as a reference. I think it's an attitude that is not going to help to solve the problem.
In your opinion, what is the role of youth in the fight against corruption?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that youth can do. First and foremost, the youth of today, many of them will be the leaders of tomorrow. And by developing resilience to engage in corruption, we would, the future generation and the future would be a cleaner environment. So that's the first thing. The second role is simply to spread the word. And we have, youth is in general idealistic and believe in ideals. And I think these ideals are very often very valuable and need to be communicated. So youth can also, if you want, promote the notion of integrity with passion. And finally, youth can simply play the role that that civil society does, in the sense that can help monitor some work or distribute some leaflet or talk about corruption issues and integrity to their friends. Or I mean, there's a variety of actions that can be taken by youth in that respect.
TI identifies youth as one of the target groups in the fight against corruption. So, what is TI doing to raise youth awareness about this problem and encourage them to demand for anti-corruption?
I think we mobilizing youth awareness consists in trying to first help youth understand the issue better, demystify it. Corruption can be quite technical to a certain extent, so I think the first part of the work we can do is try to make the issue of corruption more accessible to young people, and in a way explain that it affects their life as much as it affects the life of older people. So that's one thing we can do, and I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. And also, fighting corruption doesn't have to be heavy. You can do that in a light way by mobilizing, engaging, talking about it, and a number of our chapters around the world engage you through concerts, through contest, through drawing contest, or music concert, or songwriting.
There is a common perception for people in Vietnam that living with integrity will result in some personal disadvantages, for example, in getting a new job or promotion, increasing salary, or getting a contract. So, what is your view on this perception?
I think when one considers the perception you're describing, I think it depends the time frame you're looking at. If you look at a particular individual, yes, that may happen, and that's very unfortunate. But if you're looking at a larger group of people, let's never lose sight that the practice of corruption benefits only a minority of people, not a majority of people. Any society that does not control corruption ends up giving favor to a minority of people and letting down the majority of them. And that applies to the youth as well. So yes, there might be a few that benefit from that, but there will be many that actually suffer from such practices. So there is no disadvantage for youth as a group.
In Vietnam, in spite of the national efforts, corruption remains a critical issue, and achievement of anti-corruption efforts seems very modest. An UNDP expert claimed that corruption in Vietnam has become systemic. So, from TI experience, what can Vietnam do to improve this situation?
Well, there's a lot can be done, and that's not specific to Vietnam. In fact, there's a lot that can be done in many countries. I think in Vietnam, more particularly, I think there is a stronger emphasis on the enforcement of anti-corruption legislation needs attention. The legal framework on anti-corruption in Vietnam is strong, is relatively recent, but it's the implementation that is not up to the standard, and that needs strengthening. That's the first thing. Other things that can be done are ensuring that the institutions that are designed to fight corruption have a greater level of autonomy and independence. Autonomy in terms of capacity, and independence in terms of influence or interference from the executive power. And that applies to Vietnam as it would apply everywhere in the world. What else can be done? I think we can envisage to strengthen also the understanding of the public, so that the public takes part in the fight against corruption. Corruption ultimately affects people, and at the end of the chain, the people are suffering from corruption, and they need to be part of the solution. So one thing that remains to be done at a greater scale in Vietnam is a greater engagement of the public in supporting the national anti-corruption effort that are promoted by the government. Those are just a few examples, and the list is very long. Another one would be strengthening civil society to play the role of monitoring and supporting anti-corruption work, and so on and so on. What needs to be done is to move from awareness raising to start providing an environment in which people can take action, can make a difference. And that's, I think, what is engaging the public in the fight against corruption is about creating the conditions so that you and me, wherever we live, have an ability to engage and change the course of action, and can be heard, can contribute to some anti-corruption program, or can be part of committees to address the issue. That's what needs to be done. The awareness is out there already. People are very well aware that corruption is a critical problem in their country and in this country as well.
Well, thank you very much.